Today, I'm proud to announce that we are introducing the Limit, Save, Grow.
Republican U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy on Wednesday unveiled a plan to raise the nation's debt ceiling by $1.5 trillion and cut federal spending by 3 times that amount, laying out an opening position in what is likely to be a tense partisan debate over increasing the government's borrowing authority.
The Speaker is recognized.
Today, I'm proud to announce that we are introducing the Limit, Save, Grow Act of 2023. This responsible legislation will be led by our Budget Chairman, Jody Arrington. Would responsibly raise the debt limit into next year and provide more than $4.5 trillion in savings to the American taxpayer.
And yields back.
McCarthy's proposal, which he unveiled on the floor of the House of Representatives, would cut some types of federal spending to 2022 levels and cap growth at 1% annually in years to come. It would not touch retirement and health programs that are projected to expand dramatically as the population ages.
Now, here's how we do it. First, we limit government spending. Our plan would return discretionary spending to pre-inflationary fiscal year 2022 levels, and then limit the growth of spending to 1% per year.
The plan also would repeal green energy incentives signed into law by Democratic President Joe Biden last year, boost domestic oil and gas production, and scrap Biden's $400 billion student loan forgiveness effort, McCarthy said.
Our bill would actually claw back billions of dollars of unspent COVID money that has sat for the last 2 years. The American people are tired of politicians who use COVID as an excuse for more extreme inflationary spending. Now, if this money was authorized to fight the pandemic, but was not spent during the pandemic, it should not be spent after the pandemic is over. Our proposals also repeal Biden's army of 87,000 IRS agents. Now, that will save taxpayers $70 billion, and it's going to protect the families and the small businesses from weaponizing the IRS. It will also help lift millions of Americans out of poverty. Right now, there are more job openings than people looking for work, in part because the Biden administration has weakened some of the very work requirements that then Senator Joe Biden previously supported. Our plan ensures adults without dependents earn a paycheck and learn new skills.
McCarthy said the package would lower spending by $4.5 trillion. Those proposals are likely to be rejected by Biden and Democratic-controlled Senate. McCarthy said they would serve as the basis for negotiations between the two parties over raising the $31.4 trillion debt limit in the coming months. Washington will have to increase the nation's borrowing authority to avoid defaulting on previously approved spending. President Biden has a choice, McCarthy said on the House floor.
House Republicans have a plan. The Senate does not. And the President is ignoring the debt crisis. President Biden has a choice. Come to the table and stop playing partisan political games. Or cover his ears, refuse to negotiate, and risk bumbling his way into the first default in our nation's history. I urge all my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to support this plan to get our nation back on track.
He did not say when the House of Representatives, which is Republicans controlled by a narrow 222 to 213 majority, would vote on the plan. The White House reiterated its position that Congress should raise the $31.4 trillion debt limit without conditions, as it did 3 times under Biden's Republican predecessor, Donald Trump. At an appearance outside Washington, Biden said Republicans were threatening to push the United States into a historic default that would shake the world economy. Who do you think will hurt the most? You, hardworking people, the middle class, he said.
The executive order doesn't require any new spending. It's about making sure taxpayers will get the best value for the investments they've already made. The Speaker talked about limited spending, which sounds good. And by the way, I was able to cut the deficit by $1.7 billion in 2 years. But let's take a closer look at what he didn't say. Critical programs for hardworking Americans, the ones they count on, will be slashed starting next year if he has his way. He didn't tell you the leading House Republican proposals would cut all the programs and discretionary spending by 22%. It would mean higher costs for child care, higher costs for preschool, higher costs for college. 200,000 children would lose access to Head Start slots. And even more would lose access to child care altogether. What are MAGA Republicans in Congress doing? Because this is not your father's Republican Party. This is a different deal. Changes to Medicaid would also cause millions of people to lose their health care. And now, what the Speaker didn't tell you is the MAGA Republicans in Congress are still supporting over $3 trillion in tax giveaways overwhelmingly benefit the wealthiest Americans and the biggest corporations. And their cuts to those critical programs I talked about won't go to reduce the deficit after all. They just pay for the rest of the MAGA Republican agenda, massive tax cuts, giveaways to gear up for the rich and large corporations who acknowledge they don't need them all. Folks, if MAGA Republicans in Congress won't ask the wealthier big corporations to pay $1 more in taxes, but they'll make a 22% cut to programs across the board like education, scientific research, basic services people rely on, then they should tell the American people what that means and why they're doing it. The actions we're taking today are about dignity, security, and peace of mind for working families and caregivers all across the country. And they're good for the economy as well.
The White House last month proposed its own budget, which it said would cut the nation's deficit by nearly $3 trillion over 10 years, largely through increased taxes on businesses and wealthy rather than spending cuts.